want to thank our sponsors.
JustForPolice.com, a grassroots service reward program established for police officers buying and selling real estate. Jiu-Jitsu50.com, a lifestyle brand training resource for law enforcement officers, providing technique videos, blog articles, promoted courses, and the latest in apparel and gear. Jiu-Jitsu50.com. Storm Training and Consulting, offering courses in firearms, tactical emergency medicine, and the Tactical Rescue Challenge. Stormtraining.org. Manchester Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, aka Bushido, located in Manchester, Connecticut, a staple in the jiu-jitsu community for over 20 years. ManchesterBJJ.com. Welcome back to the Code. I got Rich McKeegan. Again, we're not together. We're separate. I'm getting a little stir crazy not being able to be next to the Scarecrow in person, but he is back at his house, surrounded by legend UFC fighters in the background. Rich, how's it going?
It's good. It's good today. So kids were good today. Low stress. Wife was working a ton, but I'm excited for this podcast. Been looking forward to it all week. Get to hang out with a good friend tonight.
Oh yeah, he's a good dude. So I got to take off my I got my Origin mask because on the way in I feel like Fred Jones from Scooby-Doo when I got this on, like the ascot. But that thing off. But so anyway, yeah, we got a great guest tonight. I met him several years back when he came out to do some seminars out our way with Black Belts for Butterflies. But Bryant, I don't want to mess up the last name.
Here we go.
Here we go. It's Pangelinan.
Yeah.
All right. Bryant, there you go. Welcome, Bryant. How are you?
Thank you, sir. I'm good. Well, I'm good. How are you guys?
We're good. Rob's been practicing that all week to make sure he didn't screw that up, because I was telling them, it's like I was calling you Pangelinan for the longest time, and then it wasn't until Black Belts for Butterflies in Washington when you told everyone how to pronounce your name. I was like, all right, I feel like an ass.
Hey, I'll leave it to the cop to get it right.
Well, I literally was practicing it. He's not wrong. So I was like, oh, I don't want to mess that up because next time he rolls, he's going to smash it. So I guess you logged into a different meeting right before this.
Yeah. So I was a little off in my time. It's been a long day, and then I'm like rushing to get home. I'm like, man, Rich won't want me late. I got to get on. I log in. I'm like, cool, it's working. And next thing you know, I'm in a Zoom like fitness class or something, and like the kid looks at me, he's like, oh, hey, professor. I'm like, oh, bye.
Oh, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Hey, you Zoom bombed our class.
Hey, I should have selfied that.
Yeah, that would have been cool. So how's your academy doing through all this? I know we talked a little bit before we started, but how are you guys doing out there?
We're doing well. Thankfully my members are still supporting, and it's a no pressure type deal. It's the only source of income I have, and the only way we can pay bills. And only had a couple of freezes and maybe a few just drop off, which totally understand. Again, no pressure, but we've been okay and got some relief from our landlord. So I can't complain on that end. But it's tough because, as you guys know, the day-to-day hustle is gone as far as the drop-in, new person that signs up and all that day-to-day stuff. And I was really, crunching my numbers. I'm like, man, I'm really missing out on a huge chunk of my income because of that daily hustle. But, we're doing what we can.
Now, it's like you have an academy in Guam as well, an affiliate, don't you there?
Yeah, we have I have a new affiliate in Guam. That's one of it's actually the newest one. And they're just like everybody else in the world. They're on lockdown too.
Okay, I was curious to see, are they in the same situation? Because we have a lot of people that are in the middle of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you and us, we're on both coasts, and we're seeing a lot more of everything that's been really happening. It's like the middle of the United States, kind of like a little bit more loose there. So I wasn't sure how Guam was faring at this time.
They got hit pretty good, and they're still going through it. The whole lockdown and quarantine is still in place. I believe, all the essential businesses are open, and they're doing all the same things everybody else is worldwide. So, and what's nice is that the community and its residents and everybody on the island is fairly, you know, making sure they're doing their part. So.
Yeah. Now we get a lot of listeners from kind of two sides of the fence. We get a lot of listeners from the jiu-jitsu world, and we get a lot of listeners from the law enforcement world, hence the name of the code. We're kind of like the code of Bushido and the code of in the line type of thing. So we got listeners on both sides, like I said, and some that cross over and are part of both. And I know that what I'm excited about having you on is you've lived both worlds.
Yeah.
Like I have. You were in law enforcement, and I know you came from a military family, and as Rich did. And I didn't travel with them. My dad was out of the military by the time I was born, right around when I was born. But I know that both of you guys came from military families. And you know, what got you? Well, first of all, what was it like trying to travel in the world when you were young? And then what brought you guys back to like California area?
Oh man, it was great. It was great. My dad, when I was really small, my dad got out of the Army and joined the civil service. So he worked for the federal government for 30 years or so. And but even with that position that he had, which was pretty much up there, I guess you could say, he took us around all over the country as far as the United States. Then we started to venture overseas. So I lived in Seoul, Korea for a couple of years. And then I was actually born in Germany. And then later in life, I lived in Seoul, Korea for 2 years. And then we moved to Germany again for another 2 years. So in between all that, man, I've been to 49 states and all over Europe and Asia. And it's just, I still have some bucket list places I want to get to. But, you know, one of the best things I can say that, you know, my dad exposed us to a lot of different cultures and places. And, you know, it's in my mind, it's a true gift if you get to see those things. And I'm glad I experienced that. In 89, after my brother graduated high school in Germany, we moved back here to California. And, you know, I pretty much told my parents, please, can we not move anymore? Because I want to like finish school out in one place. I've been to a lot of schools growing up. That's the one thing, like between elementaries and middle schools. And I went to even 2 high schools. So it's, you know, I'm just well-rounded in that area. But we got to California 89 and we stayed and I finished out here.
That's awesome. Yeah, I went to a couple different schools, but nothing like you guys. And Rich, you had a similar type of experience a little bit?
Yeah, my father, he spent 22 years in the Navy, and it's like we bounced from the United States to Europe. I was born over there, and God, same thing. It was like every 2-3 years we were moving. It's like another place, another school. The worst move was we were 3 years in Italy, and we came back to the States. And we were in upper state Buffalo, New York. We got there like mid-September. And it was like, you know, we had seen snow in Germany and the Alps and stuff. And we got killed. It was like 6 feet of snow, the first snowfall. Our closest neighbor was a mile down the road. We lasted 6 months. As soon as spring came, we left, moved to Virginia. My dad was like, I hate this place. So what? 49 states. So was it Delaware?
Rhode Island.
Really? You never been to Rhode Island?
Oh, yeah.
When you come back this year, hopefully, we're just going to drive you over there. So you can at least take a picture on the side.
And I'll go touch, done it.
Rhode Island's
I'll check myself into Rhode Island.
Absolutely.
Rhode Island's got some cool stuff. I lived there for about 2 years, and it was a fun place. There's a lot of fun stuff in Rhode Island. Nice beaches, some good sights. But so as Rob was mentioning earlier, it's like we have people on both sides of the fence, police officers, BJJ, but you started as a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you land in that position?
Well, sorry guys. Out of college, I was working for the government myself, doing some IT work. And then, you know, I was a contractor for the federal government. And I was just like, you know what, I'm tired of bouncing around doing contractor jobs. I've always wanted to be a police officer. My dad didn't want me to be in the military just because he always, you know, thought he didn't want his boys to go off to war. So I got myself into the academy, and I was the only only student that was picked up like right away, because half the class was was just recruits, and others were actually hired on by other agencies, and I was the only one that was picked up like right away, and I was with San Pablo Police Department, and it's one of the rougher areas, and what was it, like the most parolees per square mile. So we had a lot of good action over there, but yeah, I was a police officer, and matter of fact, I was like a purple belt or something like that when I was a cop. So, you know, I was already well-rounded in jiu-jitsu and doing a lot of crazy stuff out in the street. But, you know, it's rough out there, and you had to protect yourself. And I done everything but shoot somebody. I guess you could say that. So.
Yeah, it is amazing, though, how much it translates to the street, though. Unlike a lot of other martial arts, I've said this in the past, you can train in many martial arts. In training, they look a certain way, but then when you use them for real, they look much differently. Jiu-jitsu almost looks identical. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I'll never forget when I was in the police academy, and we were in formation in PT, and my LT at the time, you know, big guy, SWAT guy, you know, very, very, you know, all about it. I'm just sitting there with blown out ears, and I got this jiu-jitsu tattoo on my leg, and he like looks me up and down. He's like, "Pang, what the F do you do?" And I was like, "Sir, fight, sir." He's like, "I thought so."
Oh, great. Now,
so, you know,
was this during, when did you start bodybuilding? That was way before. Yeah, that was way before, in the late 90s. So you were probably like a trim down, what, 230, 240?
Yeah, right around there. I was still a big kid.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. You were talking about your lieutenant. I don't think I might have cut you off there.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was just, you know, he just looked at me up and down. He just saw how, you know, between the ears and the jiu-jitsu tattoo. He's like, "Man, you know, it's good to have a guy like you on our side." So, you know, I got that kind of respect, and I carried myself through, and I definitely can say that, you know, the mindset of martial arts and whatnot really kept me in check as far as, you know, persevering and working hard. And, you know, if you want something, you got to work for it. And that's what it was. So.
Now, when did you start to wrestle? Because you did wrestling before jiu-jitsu, correct?
Yeah, I wrestled since I was a kid, and started competing in high school, and competed well after into college, and then all the way up to, matter of fact, it's funny because it went from wrestling majority of my life to bodybuilding, competitive bodybuilding, where was almost turned professional for a chunk of years, and then right back into wrestling, and then to jiu-jitsu. So it was 2003. I was training with my wrestling club that I was also coaching at the high school that I went to. And he's my best friend. He was also one of the coaches there, and he just started fighting, and he was wrestling out of SF State. And he's like, "Yeah, come on down. You know, they like a lot of they like wrestlers down there at the Cesar Gracie Academy," and that's where I started.
You were it's like the whole California thing with like the Cesar Gracie. Now he's with, what was that? The Diaz brothers came up with him.
Yeah.
Came up with
Jake Shields, Gilbert Melendez.
What about BJ? Wasn't BJ there for a while?
No, BJ came from Half Gracie originally.
Oh, that's right. I was confused.
Yeah. Half and Cesar were actually the same team for many, many years when they first came out here.
Okay. Now, what drew you to jiu-jitsu from wrestling, or from bodybuilding, I should say, at that point?
Well, again, I just kind of cut cold turkey on the whole bodybuilding idea, and just was still lifting and all that kind of stuff, but then got back into my roots, which was wrestling. And then, like I said, my best friend was training jiu-jitsu and fighting at the same time. And then I went down to the Gracie Academy, and it was very different in the early 2000s. Like, you know, it wasn't like, "Here, tie your belt this way." Like, no one offered me a gi. It wasn't like that. It was like, "Jump in, you're in." And I was like, all right. So next thing I know, I'm looking across, and I see Nick Diaz staring at me. You know, I don't know who he is. Take him down, sure, okay. But, you know, it was in the early times when I started training, it was just about being tough. And I was taking everything from that to help me with my career. So, you know, I guess you could say it was never how students have it today, as far as the set things and, you know, the beginner class, and definitely not. I think one of the first moves I ever learned was a heel hook. So, you know.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of times I'll tell my students when they ask what it was like, training in the, mid to late 90s and into the early 2000s. I'm like, it was like you had a dull machete and you're in the middle of the jungle, just like bushwhacking your way. And you're like, no, that's the wrong way. And you go this way. No, that's the wrong way.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like a paved highway with hotels and restaurants.
Yes.
It's like totally different animal.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't trade it for anything for the world. I loved how I started in this, and the people I learned from are just like some of the who's who coming from that old team. But it helped me to form what I have today. So I guess it was a blessing in disguise also.
Well, I would say you did pretty well, because I'm pretty sure you're a 3-time NOGI World Champ, Black Belt Pan Am NOGI Champ, correct?
Yeah.
I would say
Yeah.
Now, competition-wise, when you got into competition, did you notice the difference between your wrestling competitions and the nerves and stuff like that and getting ready, or was it very similar?
My mindset was the same when I started competing in jiu-jitsu, and I guess you could say it was more like, all right, you know what to do. You've been under the lights before. It's not a big deal. But now it's a little bit different animal, because, the submissions are in play, but I treated it all the same entering into it mindset-wise. But obviously, it's funny because my very first tournament, it was a gi tournament, and I got armbarred my first match. I took the dude down hard, and I got armbarred like right away. And I was like, damn, never again. But then I never looked back, but, and I learned from that. And then after that, it was just a lot of wins. So.
Awesome. Rich, you gonna say something, Rich?
No, I was going to ask you, it's like you've competed, then you kind of stopped for a little bit. Are you coming back?
Well, I think I need it for my own personal reasons, as far as like, that part of me as a competitor has been there majority of my life. And it's like one of those things where it's like, how do you shut that up? How do you get that to stop talking in your ear? Because it's constantly there reminding you, this is the type of person you are. This is the way you were wired, and you don't know any other way. So I think I wouldn't mind competing again. I think I would need it, as far as I love the preparation. I love preparing for tournaments no matter what. Even when my students are preparing for tournaments, I'm not competing. I'll still train and eat and do all the same things like I'm doing it with them, just to keep me in that mode. And I really, truly enjoy the preparation aspects of competing. But competing itself, man, I've done it so much. And I really just love that feeling, no matter what the outcome and everything. I just love being out there.
Now, are you thinking about going back to like the IBJJF, or doing more fight to wins, or just everything?
I don't know. My biggest goal has always been to win NOGI Worlds at Black Belt. I got as close as silver in 2014, and I've medaled at that tournament like 10 times. And, it's just to go out the way I want to go out. That's been the goal. And I think IBJJF NOGI Worlds would be my goal if I had to pick one.
A lot of people are, I guess, been down on the IBJJ as of lately with the whole Globetrotters thing and stuff like that. Does that sway you at all? I mean, I know I was getting ready. I was actually all registered to compete for the first time in a long time down in Orlando Open. And then that kind of whole thing broke. But I said to myself, I'm still going to do it. And then the whole coronavirus thing hit. But what's your opinion of that?
I mean, the Globetrotter thing, you mean?
Yeah.
I see it as we're in a lifestyle, I guess you could say, martial arts be it, that there's going to be Ronins. It's just part of what it is. And I think the Globetrotter thing is an outlet for those type of individuals or teams that kind of just have nowhere to go and really needs either, by guidance or whatever it may be, as far as like, affiliating with a team, why not, but I think on another side, it's tough, because I myself, when I compete under my teacher, which is Carlos Sapal. But my team and my black belt degrees and everything, it's all under IBJJF. And when I became a second degree black belt, I did everything I could to make sure that I was legitimate as far as the certification of that. And to me, I like that. I enjoy doing all the legwork and going through the process. Like I had to go through the IBJJF refs course, and you know, they do a background check and just to make sure they're dotting their I's and crossing their T's to make sure, all right, this student of the game is really putting an effort towards their, you know, their black belt and their team and themselves. And so it was an investment for myself and for my team that I take pride in. And so when I got those degrees and those certificates from the IBJJF, it's a piece of paper for some, yes, but at the same time, it's like I took that time, I paid out of my pocket, and I made sure that those that are following under me, be it my affiliates and all my students, can do so and compete without any hassle or worry. So I just see it as I'm doing myself a favor, but I'm also having a following of people under me that need it as well.
Yeah, that's actually a great reason. I ran into as Rich will tell you, I ran into a major problem trying to register because they wouldn't acknowledge my coach, Pedro Sauer.
Wow.
So because he hadn't been registered with them in a while because they were being, I guess, just difficult and stuff. So he, because he wasn't registered with, we had another black belt in the association registered to sign for people. But because I'm a second degree and he's a second degree, he's been off on me. So
right.
Until he's been a third degree with IBJJ for just so long. So it ended up working out in the long run. But as Rich will tell you, it was a hornet's nest trying to get through it all. But yeah, it's kind of nuts.
Well, again, I think it's for any academy owner, black belt academy owner, I think it's an accreditation for the academy, for the person and themselves, and also a testament to you and what you value as far as giving back to your team. So why not take those extra efforts,
Now, what is the new standard? Because they changed that. That was another thing. And it's like it used to be third degree or second degree that could sign off for the black belts, and now it has to be the next level up.
Well, I'm not sure if it's been confirmed, but when I got everything through on my end, second degree can do sign-offs and promote black belts. And that's what, I'm capable of doing. I know that they were interested in doing a third degree to up the standard for sign-offs and in team sake and all that kind of stuff and certifications, but I haven't seen anything concrete in regards to that change.
Now, do you see a lot of difference? Actually, it's not even so do you see a lot of difference, but in the way that the IBJJF runs their tournaments, and there's always like the hemming and the hawing of like the no-gi grappling, the fight to win, and the rule set, as well as like Eddie Bravo when he was doing his. And it's like that rule set compared to the IBJJF. It's like, what do you see more progressing? It's like in the future right now.
Well, it's hard to say because it's almost like here we are. When you compete, you're playing a game. Yes, it's jiu-jitsu, and then the ends as far as what your goal should be is a submission. Sure, absolutely, 100%. But at the same time, there's gonna be different factions and federations and all these type of different ways to play the game, right? But I just see it as progression. If we don't open our minds up as far as competitors to take it on as the not necessarily the founding fathers, but like the greatest of all times, like the Roger Gracie, the Marcelo Garcia, those guys that did gi, they did no gi, they did submission only, they did IBJJF, they didn't care. They said, you know what, I don't care what they're gonna, what you're gonna put in front of me, I'm gonna freaking wreck everybody, and they did. So to me, that should be the type of competitor that someone should, mold themselves into. And I push that on my students, even as far as competing. Like, hey, you want to do something, do everything. Don't just be a one-trick pony. So.
Yeah. I agree. I try to get them to do at least a competition at each belt level, so as they go through it. If they ask me my opinion, I don't make them compete, but I'm like, if you're going to, I would suggest at least once at each belt level, just to say by the time if you do make it to black belt someday, at least you have been through that journey and competed along the way. Because it's kind of hard to, I don't know, it's kind of hard to be a coach at somewhere if you've never actually gotten out there and done it on the mat yourself.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and that's what cracks me up sometimes when you see these guys out there like they've never even tasted let alone competition, but even a victory at black belt, it's like, dude, you shouldn't open your mouth and talk. You should go sit back down. But, you know, I agree too. You know, like, I don't push competition on my students, but if they come to me and say, coach, I want to compete, then I'm very, very supportive on that. My students will tell you straight up, I don't sugarcoat nothing. If you suck, I'll tell you you suck. If you need to work on something, you got to work on it. And I'm big on, you know, exploiting things in regards to, if I told you you should have worked on that, then I better see that when we train. And if I don't see it, I'm going to exploit that every single time. So it becomes a bit of an untold or unwritten learning lesson. Like, all right, let's see what you got. Then boom, if I don't see that, you know, mistake fixed, I'm going to keep doing it to you.
What do you suggest for people that are listening that want to compete? What do you suggest for like a training camp if they're going to like IBJJ, you know, that kind of thing? What, like, how long out before the competition? You know, what kind of areas should they pick as, you know, areas to work on? Is it drilling? Is it more rolling? Do you know, conditioning wise, all that kind of thing? And then when do they start to slow down if the competition's on a certain day? When do they have that last hard training day?
We do that quite a bit on my team, and I always tell the students the same way I did it. Start out with the local tournaments, no matter what belt level you are. If you're new to the belt, or even you're new to jiu-jitsu, do the small one first. Go do the little podunk tournament that, you know, is in the high school gym. It's great. There's nothing wrong with it. You get to see how you truly react under the hot lights, and you know, if your body and your mind respond by way of doing proper technique in a fight. So, you know, and you do enough of them to the point where, all right, now you're ready. We're going to take you to the big stage. We'll see how you do at Pan Ams. We'll see how you do at Worlds, or whatever it might be. And you see that student just kind of blossom. And we've had a lot of good students from my team excel from the small, lower local tournaments and all up to the world stage.
That's great.
But as far as the camp wise, like we, for let's say like Pan Ams, we were just gearing up for Pan Ams. I think we started them around 6 weeks out, and it's just a matter of, all right, let's see who can do what. And during those training sessions, I'll pick those guys out that told me they're gonna compete, and then I'll put them in those series of training methods, whatever it might be it situation train or comp rounds. Normally we do comp rounds like a lot, because then you get easier at, you know, how it feels to gauge yourself and keep score in your head, and also how to learn strategy. So, you know, and then we start to shave it down. Come 4 weeks, you're on it. Your diet should be good to go, because I push strength and conditioning and even diet preparation quite a bit, just to, you know, if you're going to go in there and compete, you shouldn't be eating a bag of chips, you know, the night before. It just doesn't work that way. And if you're huffing and puffing in regular training, how do you think you're going to feel when you go out there and compete? You know, it just, you don't want somebody running circles around you. And then we really start to taper it down. We're still going hard a week out, and then come 2 days out, we cut it off, and everybody just kind of goes into a competition prep mode, whether you got to go cut weight or just do, you know, light workouts, or just drill, you know, smart and make sure you don't get hurt. But about 2 days normally we cut things out.
I would think it kind of depends on the age too. Like, I was noticing I was starting to train, you know, a lot more for it as I knew I was going to be going. And I mean, I'm almost 48, and I didn't have any problems all the way to about 41. 41 and on, I started to really feel it.
Yeah.
And I noticed that I can't train, like, I can train super hard today, but then I need like a day and a half, 2 days before I can do it again. So it probably also depends on that age bracket too.
Yeah, age bracket, I guess you could say, and skill level. And for me, it became more difficult the more, you know, indebted I became to my team. You know, I learned real quick about the balance of a gym owner versus competitor. It's like, whoa, you're either one or the other. And if you try and balance out both, you're going to have a really hard time. Right before I opened my academy, man, I was bouncing around the globe and competing like mad. And then I opened up my academy, and I was still trying to do the same and still able to do well. But I noticed, I'm like, man, if these guys are looking to me for help in any kind of way, I really want to make sure that I give them my 100%, you know, and that's why I think now, matter of fact, next month, it'll be 6 years for our anniversary data since we've been open. And so, you know, I've become to get a better hold on how to balance out grooming those newbies, grooming those, you know, even those colored belts that are not comp based or you know, geared towards anything like that. And then making sure my competitors are taken care of as well. So, you know, it's a balance, it's a juggling act, but I really enjoy it much more so now.
Now with your academy, you said you're coming up on 6 years. When people go out and look for academies, you know, they sit there and they're like, all right, I want to start training jiu-jitsu. Some just kind of like open a phone book, hit number one, and that's where they go. Others are like, all right, maybe I want to compete. Maybe I want to do self-defense. Is Saber known for being a competition-based school, or because of your background, the self-defense and everything else works into that as well? So it's a little bit more well-rounded.
I get hit on all different sides, and normally it's a little bit of everything, which is great. I want the newbie that's never done a sport that just found us on Google, which popped up. Great, thank you, come on in. I love crossovers. I got a ton of guys that have come over from other teams, even black belts that have come to me and say, I want you as my professor now. Sounds good, come on in. You know, the door is always open in that sense. And I really enjoy my self-defense / law enforcement students, because quite honestly, on my team, I have probably right around 60 cops or so, and probably half of which I knew back from patrol. So, you know, guys that know me and know that, like, you know, and I'm sure Rob knows, it's like there's some law enforcement guys out there trying to teach defensive tactics. Like, you shouldn't be teaching this right now. You really don't know what you're doing. And then, you know, so my guys have seen me like literally in action in patrol, and they see me in action in competition. Like, his shit works.
It's funny too, when you teach, I mean, we have a ton of law enforcement, obviously. And when you teach these guys, I almost weekly, I would say weekly, the last 3 days in a row, I've gotten videos sent to me from guys that have trained or do train with us, of actual events that they just got involved in. I think I sent one to Rich today.
Yeah.
You know, of, you know, them getting into a struggle and having to get somebody down and control them and everything. And it's amazing, you know, when people that are non-cops and they watch it, because they're like, wow, you know, with a little bit of training goes a long way. They look much different than some of the YouTube sensational ones you see where they don't know how to control somebody. And it's amazing still. How many, that one I sent you earlier, Rich, how many regular people, is it like a grocery store? How many regular people just stand there and stare at them or walk by, or like no one does anything? Nobody helps them. Nobody calls 911. They just let them fight.
Terrible.
Yeah. So, but yeah, a lot of the instructors in DT, they go to a 5-day course. They don't have any previous experience. They didn't do anything else. They just saw it come out in a memo. Hey, you know, who wants to be a DT instructor? And it goes for a lot of things, not just DT. It could be firearms, could be anything. Sure. And you could have you, who has wrestled your whole life and, you know, purple belt in jiu-jitsu at the time, and they don't pick you. They pick, you know, some person that's never stepped from the mat, and they go to 5 days, and now you got to listen to them in a training class. You know, I've talked about it all the time on this show, but it irks me so much because until they come on the mat and see and feel someone with your pressure or the way, you know, a jiu-jitsu person can move, they don't even get it. They don't understand. It's like foreign to them.
I'll never forget when I went in for a defensive tactics instructor position with my former PD, and I'm sitting there on the oral board, and my old commander looks at me and he's looking at my resume. He's like, "Well, Pang, you're overqualified." And I'm like, "Sir?" Like, you made that sound like a bad thing, but, you know, and oddly enough, I didn't get it.
I said this once before too. I'm like, why, you know, would you hire a lifeguard that can't swim? I mean,
right?
You know, like it doesn't make any sense, right? You know, you want to bring somebody in that can do the job. Now, how long have you been out of law enforcement? How many years now have you been away from it?
It's been 11 years now. 11.
Do you ever miss it? You ever see a car go by and the lights and sirens and say like,
I still trip plates in my head. I'm still talking to dispatch. I'm still looking for PC to stop. I'm still doing everything I always did. I miss it all the time, quite honestly. And, you know, it's always cool when you know, back when we had regular class and I'm talking with my law enforcement guys, it's really cool to sit there and still talk shop and hear about their war stories that they had. And they always want to ask me about shit that I did. And, you know, as you know, Rob, is a certain brotherhood to that and camaraderie to that it resembles and parallels jiu-jitsu in many ways. But, you know, there's nothing can compare hunting man. That's for sure.
No, it's funny. You were mentioning earlier that, you know, all wrestling and competition thing, it's in your blood. Like I retired a couple of years ago now from my full-time police job. And then I work part-time still in a town right near where I live, more of a farm town. It's not in an urban environment anymore. And I miss it all the time. I miss it. I mean, I was on a tactical team for 18 of those years. So, you know, it's still like I have those moments where I was like, you want to go. And you have to like, I was going 1,000 miles an hour for all those years. And then it went to 10, you know, and now it's just like do with yourself. So I've actually considered, you know, kind of going back to that again, because like once it's in you, it's hard to
it's hard to turn it off. It's really hard to turn off. And, you know, I think as far as officers are concerned, I think, you know, not taking anything away from the vets, because, you know, we all done plenty for the vets and we still will do it. But I think as cops and former cops, there's not enough services for these guys, for you guys, as far as like, you know, for sure, undiagnosed, but I know for sure I got some PTSD big time going on. You know, it's like between the things I've seen and things I've done, it's like, it's not normal. You know what I mean? It's like to go to bed one night after you just saw some bodies, you know, flaying all over the highway or whatever it might be, or some kid shot up. It's like, these aren't normal things that people see, but been there, done that. And again, to like detach yourself from that completely. You know, I just wish there was more services for cops.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely not. And for many years when I first started, I had a great agency, but even then there was a stigma that you were stigmatized to a degree by a lot of people if you did need help. You know, I think that has changed a lot, and there is a lot more. But I remember I had a bad run for a while where I went. They would always have these debriefing things with a psychologist or psychiatrist come in and sit down with everybody, and they, you know, the EAP people, and then want to talk to you after you went to some major event. And I had a run where I was like at every one. Like every time the doctor came in, he's like, "Hey, Rob's here again," you know, like, you know, 8, 9 times in a row. After a while, you know, at the time though, I will say, especially when I was a little younger, I honestly didn't bother me. At the time, it didn't bother me. Years go by, and as you get older and you have kids or whatever, you just get a little older, you start to see how life, you know, unfolds. That's when you have time to sit back and think of all that stuff, and then it does bother you.
Right.
At least for me, when I was going fast, that didn't bother me. And now that I'm slowed down, that's when you think about it.
Yeah. You know, obviously there's still some policies and procedures that every department can run through that. Those things always definitely, you know, kind of chat my hide a little bit. And, you know, people upstairs don't always see eye to eye with the guy on the street. And that's kind of how it works sometimes. But either way, it was the best job in the world I ever had, as far as even from what I do now. I love them both. But, you know, I've even entered, if this whole COVID thing doesn't come to a clear, I probably damn near will go back to what else I can do, you know, which is become a cop. So
now, as far as academy owner, because, you know, obviously you're an academy owner like myself, and I would throw Rich in the same category, even though he doesn't necessarily own the place. He does every bit as much as I do, you know, being a manager of it. And probably has to deal with a lot more as of the last few years, because where do I go with this? Here you go, Rich. You know, so what's your biggest, what's the biggest thing you love about being an academy owner, and what's your biggest pet peeve?
Biggest thing I love about being an academy owner is getting to know these people on a personal level and helping them and watching them grow. You take the, you know, the Joe Schmo, whoever it might be, that's never done anything, and you bring them in. One of the first things they said, I'm just doing this for fitness, or I'm just doing this for self-defense, coach. Cool. That's great. Oh, I never want to compete. Cool. Right on. A year later, they're a world champ. You know, it's like you see somebody literally, you know, evolve and grow, not necessarily just to be a competitor, but you see somebody evolve and grow right in front of your eyes. And when you, like, I've had students from white to black now. And when I see them at that infancy stage go all the way up to now, these guys are kicking my butt. As a matter of fact, my nephew Jake is one of my black belts, kick the crap out of me today. It's just, you know, I love that. That means to tell me I'm doing my job. And I think that's one of the most important parts. Pet peeve wise, like, man, don't be in a rush. And I see students like want to jump ahead sometimes. And, you know, they always want to swim before they can crawl. It's like, dude, you need to hang out the shallow end of the pool for a little while before you can jump into the deep water. Just, you know, and it's normal though. That's been around for ages, and guys that want to like learn all the cool fancy moves first before they can even learn how to get out of the mount. Hey, it is what it is. But quite honestly, I like those guys too, because that's a challenge. It's a challenge as a teacher and as a coach to kind of shake them of that and let them know, okay, haven't I been telling you this is what you should be working on and focusing on? And then again, like I said earlier, you go and exploit that student with that, you know, area that they're lacking in, and be like, see, I told you, you're not working on it.
It's definitely funny to sit there as a brand new black belt. It's almost like being a parent. You know, I still consider myself a brand new parent. You know, my kids are, my daughter just turned 3, son 7. But it's like, when I was a kid, whatever I did, it was like, it was my idea and no one had ever done anything before. So it's like, I would get away with it. And my dad would be like, dude, you're a dumbass. Why did you do that? It's like, I've done everything. And I'd be like, no, you've never done the stuff I did. And it was like, finally, it's like, now I'm a parent. And I look to my dad, I'm like, man, he knew everything. So it was kind of same in jiu-jitsu. I sit there and it's like, well, I was a white belt and a, you know, blue belt and spaz and doing all the dumb shit. And it's like, you know, some of our black belts at the academy. Rich, what should I work on? Oh, I'm working on rubber guard. Work on your post guard. Work on your mount escapes. No. Rubber guard. It's the way to go. And now I get back to that same situation and I shake my head. And I'm just like, I've been there. I've done it. It's like, this is what you should be working on right now. And they're like, no. Berimbolo into a heel hook. This is where I'm going. It's your third class. Be quiet.
Yeah. But, you know, it's funny. My students will tell you, too, like sometimes when I'm sitting there and I'm teaching them and I'm like one-on-one looking at another student right in the eye, all right, this is what you need to do. This is what you should probably work on. This is how you do it, right? And then if they sit there and still trying to challenge me in any kind of way, I end my sentence with, well, what do I know? And then I walk away.
It's funny. Keith Owen, you know Keith, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Keith Owen told me years ago, I was probably a purple belt. He was telling me, he's like, you know, he's like, the ranks, they all resemble stages of human life. He's like, a white belt is like an infant child. You have to change its diapers. You have to feed a bottle to it. You got to perp it. You know, you can't leave it unattended. It'll hurt itself. Like, you know, it's completely helpless. And he's like, a blue belt is like that 8-year-old child that you're their hero. Like, daddy's home, mommy's home, whatever. Like, they run to you, hold your leg. Like, you know, that's the blue belt. You know, the purple belt's like the adolescent teenager. Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then brown belt's like, wow, the world is big. Oh my God. You know, and then a black belt's kind of like, how did my parents do it all these years?
Yes.
That's pretty accurate.
I probably get this a lot from my students, especially my black belts or my instructors. Like they'll text me on the side, how do you deal with this crap? I'm like,
yeah, I was showing Rich today on my phone. I think I sent you a picture of it, or Jay Gonzalez, somebody. I had like 40 something text messages and they all came through in 1 hour as I was on the mat doing a Zoom class. And that's daily. That's all the time because everybody's got questions. I got 2 schools, and then, you know, it's like they're constantly asking things, especially now when we're shut down. So, you know, oh, I got to ask Rob this. I got to ask Rob this. And it just never stops. But one thing I wanted to ask you, Rich and I were talking about this the other day, is early on when I started jiu-jitsu, and I'm sure it was the same for you because it was kind of the thing back then, it was like unheard of to go cross-train somewhere, or you had to like sneak around to cross-train. I can remember going somewhere to cross-train and guys are like, oh, you can't come there. You can't go there or whatever. And nowadays, at least in our area, I don't really see that as a problem anymore. It's very, very unusual or rare. But I actually did recently have a black belt that wanted to come train. And he's like, oh, I just can't take any pictures or post anything. And I'm like, that still exists? I didn't even think that still exists. How is it out where you are? What do you think of that whole thing? 'Cause I think it's ridiculous.
I'm pretty well known in my area to be like door open policy as far as like, hey, I don't care what patch you have. I don't care what gi you got. I don't care what belt you are. Come on in. I'm going to choke you with that patch you're wearing. So, you know, I try and be as welcoming as possible. And I treat everybody that walks in my door, whether they're my student or not, like they are, you know, like their family already, to make sure that they feel welcome and that this is a place of, you know, to have a good time. But, you know, it's still present out here. sad to say. I get that all the time. Back, obviously when we're running regular class, and my noon class is notorious for bringing monsters out of the, all the areas that want to do come training, because that's normally my time to train. So my students that compete, they come out that class, and then all these, top guys will come out and train with me. But many times they've had, hey, Brian, do me a favor. Don't tag me, okay? Don't check me in. No problem, man. I got you. But it sucks. It's sad. I think it's just terrible. You don't own nobody. And the thing is like, you can sit there and preach, someone to be loyal to as much as you want, but they're going to do it themselves, good, bad, or indifferent. They're going to come back. And that's the thing. My students, I always encourage them, hey man, go train with so-and-so, go do that seminar, go cross train. I always tell my students, pack your gi when you travel. I probably know a guy in the town. And even, when they come back, it's why? Because they know where home is, they know exactly where home is, and they're going to have that loyalty to the team and to the instructor. If you don't, sit there and play big brother too much, like, I own you, you can't go here. No, man, screw that.
I always sat there and use the analogy. It's your wife going out or your girlfriend going out on Friday night. It's like, if your girlfriend's going out on Friday night with her friends, dude, go out, have fun, have a great time. Yeah. But if you got an issue with that, there's something wrong with your relationship. If you're afraid she's not coming home or something's going on, there's something wrong. So it's like, dude, go have fun. She's coming home. So it's like, what's the problem? I tell the students the same thing. It's like, go train somewhere, have fun, learn something, and bring it back, Yeah,
I kind of.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, sorry, you go.
I was just gonna say, sometimes I tell my guys, hey, you're gonna go cross train with that team over there, right on, man. And it's kind of like the unspoken thing. Make sure you go over there and fuck them up. And because I want them to come back like, yeah, they didn't like me over there because I smashed everybody. But I think it's great to cross train with anybody and everyone. That's actually how I got good. In my early days, it was definitely unheard of to do much cross training. But at the time, the way our dynamic of the old team was there was a lot of cross training between camps because guys were getting ready for fights. So I got exposed to a lot of really, really good guys at an early phase in my jiu-jitsu career. So, but to me, that was also normal to cross train, because in wrestling, even, you go and train with the national team, you go and train with the state team or whatever, you train with whatever in these, different type of facets. And that's how you get good. Sure, you can get good with your own team, no matter where you are, you can get good even just rolling with a dummy. But it's just the exposure. I think it's huge, and it's all part of the culture, and why not do it more?
Yeah, I wonder where it actually comes from, because like, I trained in a lot of other martial arts, and it was never a thing. Like when I trained in Japanese jiu-jitsu or Okinawan karate or anything like, it was never a thing like, oh, you can't go to that school and visit. But when I got into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, it was like right out of the gate, it was like, oh no, man, you come here and that's it, And that's foreign to me. So I wonder where that comes from, where that belief.
I think it comes definitely from the old traditional, Japanese martial arts side of things. So where, they got one master and that's it. And you're loyal to that. You learn from him and you stay there. And you don't go learn it from anybody else. But how it translated over into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, sure, it fell along those lines because they learned from the Japanese. But even still, I think it was blown out of proportion in them early years to where it's like Dojo Storm or go challenge this academy. It's like, oh, okay, whatever.
Now, what other activities? I know you're into bikes, correct?
Yeah.
Because I grew up in the 80s. I always liked the freestyle bikes and stuff like that. So what other hobbies do you have besides jiu-jitsu?
Obviously BMX bikes, something I re-picked up a few years back, and I love building them, and I have a whole garage full of them now. But I spend a lot of time with my dogs. My son's 18, so I hang out with him quite a bit, and it's kind of cool because he's just like, my buddy. He's like not my little boy anymore, he's my buddy. So we try and do stuff together. I'm real simple. What's that?
Trucks.
Oh yeah, lifted trucks. I've been into cars since I was a teenager. So I don't think I've ever had a car that was stock, because it always got modified some way, somehow. So even my closest best friends, they're all my brother even. We don't know how to keep anything stocked. So we're always talking car parts. We're always talking car this, car that. But, you know, my hobbies, they can be expensive ones. Thank God I stopped my gun hobby because that was an expensive one too. And, you know, that was also part of, you know, law enforcement. It's a gun culture. But even still, it's like one of those things like, all right, I need to like start to chip away at things that I don't really need anymore. But, you know, I love doing stuff outdoors and getting out and hanging out. But at the same time, I'm a huge homebody, man. If I can, I'll rest as much as I possibly can and just watch TV, just because I feel like on days like, or on weeks where it's just, you know, teaching jiu-jitsu, constantly training and whatnot, my getaway is going to be, I want to just lay down, relax, and veg out in front of the TV.
No kidding. Now, back to the BMX bikes for a second, because I would ask you a question. I had my it was probably a couple of years ago now. My youngest kid, I got 3, and he was probably 9 at the time. He wanted like a old freestyle type bike. Because he saw pictures of me when I was a kid that we were looking through. I had an old GT bike with the Skyway Tough wheels and stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh, I want a bike like that with those rims. I went to a bike stop. You can't buy those anymore, at least not in the bike shop around here. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to order them. You got to order. They're still there.
They're still there?
Around. Oh yeah, they still produce. Skyway is still out there, and GT. I have a bunch of GTs downstairs. I have a Haro. I got a Mongoose. I have a Kuwahara. That's my unicorn, because I was a huge ET fan. And so when those boys were riding those Kuwahara bikes, I was like, oh,
basket.
Man. Yeah, ET in the front and the basket. And, it was just cool to see BMX riders and all that kind of stuff. And so when they reintroduced the Kuwahara just a couple of years ago, I'm like, dude, that's the one I want, and ended up getting it. So it's just, all the parts that and everything that we did as kids in the 80s and whatnot, it's all still there again.
No kidding. Now, did you buy the in-ground pools that are empty, or the half pipe stuff?
I rode half pipe. I rode half pipe and did a lot of dirt jumping and flatland freestyle. So I've rode half pipe and pools and whatnot and all those things. I love it. But now these days on my BMX cruisers, I just cruise. I just like to go for a ride.
What was your favorite trick? Flat top.
Flatland. Yeah, Flatland freestyle. I love doing like decades and tail whips and all those kind of things where everything's always something spinning.
I always like the cherry picker. You remember that one?
Oh yeah.
Hop on the wheel. That was always my favorite.
Yeah.
I was probably nothing as good as you. I was like a white belt, no stripes. I tried. So you said you like TV. Are you a Netflix guy or?
I'm a Netflix guy, man. I'm a Netflix guy.
Do you like Stranger Things? Did you see it?
Stranger Things was good. I started to get into it, but then I kind of fell off, and it just got a little weird for me. But then lately I've been doing a lot of watching conspiracy theory type documentaries, and I just watched this good one the other day, Operation Odessa. That thing was awesome.
What is
that
it?
Was Operation Odessa.
I haven't seen that one.
It's good.
Really,
it's basically
really good.
The Russian mafia and dealings with the Colombian cartel. And you want to talk about just like a wild ride these guys went through. You got to watch that, Rob. You'll appreciate it because of the law enforcement side. They have all these, ex-CIA, FBI guys talking in it, and the actual guys that were doing the crimes. And one of them is still an outstanding fugitive. So it's pretty awesome.
Oh, I absolutely got to watch it. My favorite Netflix show of all time, believe it or not, was Sons of Anarchy. Well, not that it was on. It's not on Netflix now, I think, but it was on FX years ago.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
Sons of Anarchy. But so when do you when this all clears up? We had talked to you probably a few months ago about coming back out again. Still interested in coming out?
Absolutely, 100%, man. I'd like to just jump right back on to the plan that we had and get out there and hang out with you guys and help your team out in any way I can, be it the law enforcement side or just the students themselves.
Yeah, what we're looking at doing is we run these things called officer survival programs, and basically what it is on the short end we'll have like a day where it's like 3 to 4 hours, and we'll get 50, 60 cops, local, state, federal, to all come to our academy, and it's kind of like a taste test to jiu-jitsu based type training. And it's really just designed to take these guys that maybe haven't done this before and say, hey, here's something you should look into doing. You're not going to learn everything here today, but this is like a taste test. Go back to where you're from. We'll even help you find a school, train consistently over all the time. It's going to make you better. And then we have classes that can be days long, weeks long. But what we're thinking of doing is when you come out is maybe organizing it where we have one of those during the day and then a regular jiu-jitsu seminar at night. And then
Perfect.
we'll have to bring you, hopefully, if it's still baseball season or they're having games. I don't know if you like baseball. We can bring you to Fenway.
I do. That'd be dope. That'd be awesome. I'd love that.
Okay, we'll cut through Rhode Island so you can get a picture.
Sounds good to me.
I don't know. Are we gonna have to become what is it, Devil Ray fans now too?
No. I'm not a Devil. Yeah, because of the whole Brady thing and Gronk now going to Tampa Bay. I almost fell out of my chair when I saw Gronk going there the other day.
Oh man.
I heard they're trying to go
that
through.
Amendola was going there.
I heard Edelman. I heard rumors.
I don't know. I can't imagine they weren't planning this for a while.
I just think at this point,
than New England, if I was him at that age, it's much nicer weather.
I just think at this point, your guys' Patriots and my Cowboys are gonna suck equally.
I was gonna send it to DeFranco the other day. Somebody sent me a thing. It was it said it was like a wide receiver dropping a pass for I forget which one for the Cowboys, and it says, oh, if you're a Cowboys fan, you won't catch coronavirus because you can't catch anything. That's pretty good. Well, hey, it's always a pleasure talking to you. You always bring a lot of laughter and good spirit to any conversation I've been with you and part of. So thank you for being on our podcast.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you guys, and the years of friendship have been wonderful. And you know what? It's stuff like this that just keeps us bringing us back together. So always, anytime, you guys.
All right. Hey, stay safe.
You too, brother.
All right. Thanks, brother.
All right, Rich. Thanks, man.
Later.
Later.